Hello folks, this is Matt Kramer and I'm going to do a new video today. Today will be a reading, and today I'm going to read one of my favorite characters from Star Trek Next Generation and DS9, Mr. Worf, played by Michael Dorn in both those series. And what I'm reading from StarTrek.com, the database article of Lieutenant Commander Worf. So here we go. We got Worf. He's a Lieutenant Commander, current position Federation Ambassador to Kronos. Actually, that's not entirely true anymore. If you read the A Time to series, A Time to War for War and Peace, I believe is the last book, and Mr. Worf, resigns his position as ambassador to Kronos. So that part will have to be, updated. Okay. Previously, Strategic Operations Officer, DS9, and First Officer, USS Defiant. I've also read that he's also captain of the USS Enterprise, and I believe that's the Enterprise-E. In the books and this book also. I believe the Memory Alpha will tell you that as well. That in this book, our last hope, Star Trek Picard, Last Best Hope, by Una McCormick. In that book, Mr. Worf is given the position of captain of the USS Enterprise, NCC 1701E. So pretty much, Worf should be a captain in Star Trek lore. Full name is Worf. Date of birth, Earth equivalent, December 9th, 2340. Place of birth, Kronos, Klingon Empire. Parents, son of Moog. Foster parents, Sergei and Helena Recycle. His mother's name is Cassine, and that is on the Memory Alpha website as well. Education, Starfleet Academy, 2357 2361. Marital status, widowed. He was married to Jessica Dax. Started 5124.7.5. And Dax died in 2374. Widowed for two reasons. One, because of Kalar, and of course, Jessica Dax. Children, one son, Alexander, born on the 43rd day of Mactag, birth equivalent 2366. Currently relocating to Kronos from residence at DS9, former residence is Deck 7, Section 25 Baker of the Enterprise, NCC 1701D. I think that's D also. Includes summary updates, addenda through stardate 52999.275. Okay, he was Lieutenant Junior grade in Command Division assigned to USS Enterprise as relief con and tactical officer under Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Later made acting security chief, and that's in 2364. 2365, thereabouts, promoted to lieutenant, named permanent Enterprise security chief after the death of Tasha Yar. 2367, resigned Starfleet Commission to find the Klingon Civil War. 2368, Starfleet Commission reactivated, no change in rank. 2371, promoted to lieutenant commander. Took detached leave from Enterprise after loss of vessel numbers after Star Trek Generations. 23. The heck? It's flashing on my. That could be virus. 2372. Transferred to Command Division for Enterprise on Deep Space Nine under Captain Benjamin Sisko. 2373 on detached leave in command of the USS Defiant, and on service with Sovereign class USS Enterprise, helped repel Borg temporal invasion. During mission to Gamma Quadrant, captured by Dominion, and held captain on Gem Hadar internment camp until successful escape, assigned to serve aboard IKS Rotaran under command of General Martok during Dominion occupation of DS9. 2374 resumed service on DS9 under Captain Sisko, dispatched on mission to rendezvous with Cardassian operative defector Glenn Lasserin, but abandoned mission to save wife Jadzia, receiving serious reprimand and service record. Served aboard Defiant during Chintaka offensive. 2375 commanded USS Defiant for 3 months during Captain Sisko's absence. Served as first officer during a successful Klingon mission to destroy Dominion shipyard at Monarch. Commanded IKS Karaga when ambushed by a Dominion patrol near Battlelands, forcing evacuation, ultimately rescued by Esri Dax, but then captured by Breen and held captive by Dominion for execution until released by Cardassian resistance, led by Damar. Defeated Klingon Chancellor Galron and challenged to death, handed over chancellorship to General Martok, served as tactical officer aboard USS Defiant during final battle of Dominion War, accepted position as Federation ambassador to Kronos. And there's more information as well on the memory alpha, so I'll read about that as well. Psychological profile reported Starfleet Counselor Tel Nori, DS9 service area. Update to Enterprise file report by Counselor Deanna Troy. As the only Klingon in Starfleet, Worf has already achieved an illustrious and honorable career on board the USS Enterprise, as well as played a key role in Empire politics. But he keenly feels the effects of an often tragic life, caught uniquely between two conflicting cultures, immediately evidenced by the traditional Klingon baldricks he wears over his Starfleet uniform. This inner-felt conflict stems in part from his perception of honor as taught but not always practiced by his native people, and is complicated by family relationships, which echo his duality of culture in both his personal and public life. Worf has never been put on report. He was born into a powerful political house in Kronos and carries vivid memories of a typical Klingon childhood. On his first ritual hunt during the age of 6 with his father's friend McCord, he attacked a large beast and it mauled his arm, providing a lifelong scar. However, Worf's life was changed forever in 2346, when his family was wiped out by Romulans at the Khmer outpost along their border. He has no memory of his father. The young man was thought to be the only survivor, and was soon adopted by Chief Sergei Rozhenko, a human engineer nearing retirement on board the USS Intrepid, which provided the first assistance at the scene. The next year, Worf lived with him, his wife Helena, and their son Nikolai among 20,000 colonists on the farm world Gault, and later Earth, where the bigger and stronger Worf had a hard time adjusting to less violent human culture, and the two boys often disagreed. Finally, at the age of 13, while playing in a championship game as captain of his school soccer team, he unintentionally broke the neck of an opponent, and the boy died a year later, forever guilting him into a life of restraint among humans. On the other hand, the Khmer incident instilled in him a lifelong hatred of Romulans. To feed his thirst for his native people's culture, the Rozhenkos consciously exposed Worf to as much as they possibly could, serving him Klingon food, including his favorite Rokek blood pie, and sending him to Kronos for his initial Age of Ascension ceremony in 2355, age 15. As usual, when on the homeworld he stayed with cousin's family, but felt rejected and ran away to the nearby mountains. There, while undergoing the rite of Machka in the lava caves in Nomad, the vision of the original Klingon warrior Kalis came to him, prophesying that Worf would do what no other Klingon had done. Worf entered Starfleet Academy with Nikolai in 2357, but his impetuous brother left school and returned to Gold, while Worf went on to graduate in 2361. The fear of depending on others to to protect him, had been the prime point of his own exam, entrance exams psych test. In 2364, he signed aboard Picard's USS Enterprise in the command division as a junior grade lieutenant, at the time wearing a century-old Klingon baldric. After the death of security chief Tasha Yar, he became acting chief and then assumed the post full-time in early 2365, switching to security full-time in the operations division and gaining a promotion to full lieutenant. His shipmates formally promoted him to lieutenant commander 6 years later with a ceremonial holographic ocean dunking on an ancient Earth naval vessel. Aside from a few weeks of dating fellow officer Deanna Troi in 2370 on the USS Enterprise, his most serious romance to date involved the half-human ambassador Kalar. Worf had ended their initial affair in 2359 during his academy years, but Kalar refused to begin anew and take vows after they mated in 2365 during her mission regarding the Tong sleeper ship incident. Worf's family tree took on surprising twists during his USS Enterprise career, beginning with the trumped-up charge that Mogh had betrayed Kittimer to the Romulans. The resulting probe turned up not only a second survivor and eyewitness to the massacre, his nursemaid, but a younger brother who had been left behind on Kronos, Captain Kern. Even when the traitor was proven to not be Mogh, but Jarrah, father of the powerful Duras, Worf later accepted discommendation from Klingon society rather than the cause and uproar in Empire politics had the cover-up been revealed. Worf was shocked to discover in 2367 that his interludes with Kalar had fostered a son, Alexander, when she accompanied the dying Klingon Chancellor Kingpet, while old foe Duras, a challenger for succession, was a suspect. With her mate and son present, Kalar died after being attacked by Duras when she drew too close to the truth about Kittimer, and Worf in anguish killed Duras on his own ship. His captain was more than understanding, as he had been when Worf refused to donate blood to save a Romulan, but he was put on formal report for his actions. During the Klingon Civil War of 2367-68, Worf felt compelled to resign his Starfleet commission to become involved, but it was reactivated after the war. During that time, he persuaded Kern to support Gowron against Duras' sisters and their Romulan backers, standing up to the sisters when abducted and tortured. His aid of the victor Gowron eventually restored his family's honor, and Kern won a seat on the High Council. Mogh was later rumored to be alive in a secret Romulan prison on Karaya 4. But though Worf's covert 2369 mission found the rumor to indeed be false, he did discover and agreed to keep secret a colony of shamed Klingon survivors from Kittimer, led by his father's old friend Lakor, and the Romulan guards who resigned to live with him. Worf dipped back into Klingon politics in 2370 after he questioned his own faith in the teaching of Kahless following the Karaya 4 incident. His visit to the caves of Borath, the legendary site of the great warrior's predicted return, was shaken up when Kahless did appear to return. Although later found to be cloned from ancient relics of the original Klingon warrior by the Borath clerics, the response of spiritually empty Klingons to his response led Worf to insist that Gowron accept the cloned Kahless as a returned emperor and moral leader, in effect creating a constitutional monarchy. He was even reunited with his foster brother Nikolai in 2370, when the two clashed again over humans' saving of the doomed Oralan village against Picard's orders, and the prime directive to save his pregnant wife, a native. The two parted more amicably after the incident, however. After his mother's death, Alexander was initially sent to live with the Rozhenkas on Earth, but a year later, Helena returned with him to plead to Worf to take him back for support and guidance. The two shared a testy relationship at first, but thanks to sessions with the ship's counselor, whom he eventually selected as the boy's foster parent, they fared better. When the shipboard accident left him paralyzed, Worf considered the ritual Hekbat a suicide until both Riker and Troy talked him out of it, pointing to Alexander's need for a parent. An experimental genotronic spine later restored his health. Shocked in 2370 to find his son return through time from 40 years in the future, he began allowing Alexander to find his own way, even if it was not the way of a Klingon warrior. During the USS Enterprise tenure, he birthed Keiko O'Brien's baby Molly in 10 Forward. During a shipwide crisis in 2368, his only prior experience having been a Starfleet Emergency First Aid class, he dislikes surprise parties and diplomatic duty. He also taught Makbara classes to those interested aboard ship, won a battle tournament on Fortress 3 in 2370, and for a time tutored Dr. Crusher on the weapon. There is no word that he took her offer to join her acting workshop. He trains with a multi-level holo program of personal combat calisthenics. Has also played Parisi Squares, and picked up the name Iceman from his USS Enterprise poker play. Other interests include Klingon novels, love poetry, and a love of Klingon opera. His favorite beverage, christened as a warrior's drink when introduced to it by Dinah, is prune juice. Following the destruction of the Enterprise and breakup of his staff in 2371, Worf sent Alexander once again to live with his Rosangos on Earth, and went on extended leave to revisit the Klingon monastery and clerics on board in search of a spiritual answer to the letdown of the rapid events prolonged. He found their discussions enlightening and considered resigning his Starfleet commission, but in early 2372, he accepted Captain Benjamin Sisko's request to join the Deep Space Nine staff in light of renewed Klingon friction after dissolution of the Khitomer Accords and their short-lived invasion of the Cardassian Empire. He had all but decided to resign and join a Niberite cruiser crew when the Deep Space Nine offered persuading him to stay, having felt that his Starfleet uniform was a disgrace to his own people. Early on in the assignment, Worf admitted to continued bouts of depression over the end of what he perceived as glory days on the Enterprise, and countered it somewhat by taking quarters on the station's starship, the USS Defiant, and finding a kinship with Dax, who trains with the Backleth and Mekhleth as well. He soon got the chance to meet Klingon legend Kor, but that honor too was ripped away when image gave way to reality, as the two fought over the Sword of Kahless relic. The Sword of the Kahless relic they found on a quest. Worf's public opposition to Calhoun's invasion left him largely unaffected until the Empire attempted to frame him for the so-called slaughter of 141 Klingon civilians amid his skirmish. The hoax was revealed only shortly before he had been extradited. Worf had been extradited, extradited for the crime, and faced certain death. However, on Kronos,